Well, welcome to Meet the Candidate, and my guest for this session is Chris Reykdal, running for Superintendent of Public Instruction. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We talked a little bit before. Obviously, you're in your car. I think we're all used to making connections wherever we happen to be, whenever we need to. So I'm glad you could make it. This is a Get Acquainted, and that first question is, tell me about where you grew up.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Snohomish, Washington, a little town east of Everett. Both my parents were both had an 8th grade education. That's as far as they went. So public school was really powerful for me, and that is a great little town in terms of public schools and just really feeling connected. So yeah, Snohomish, and then WSU Cougar after that. So Pullman for 3.5 years. I got done a little bit early, which was nice.
Hey, what did you study?
Social studies, so I became a certified teacher in social studies, lots of U.S. history and world history, and then a minor and a teaching certificate in sciences, mostly geology and earth sciences, so both the social studies side and the science side.
Oh, that's kind of like what my dad did, actually. So tell me about your first job. People who grow up in small towns often have more job opportunities as a youth, anyway. What did you do?
Oh, I had so many, so I'll summarize them. I literally pulled weeds for a little corner grocery store and then picked berries. You go up Highway 2 in our community to pick berries as a kid, as a typical job. But really probably the first one where I earned a salary and did all that stuff on a regular basis was as a grocery clerk at the local Safeway store up on Avenue D in Snohomish.
And so are there some lessons you learned from that job that have carried with you as an adult?
Oh, definitely customer service and just really meeting people where they are. You know, when you're 15 or 16 or whatever, hauling people's groceries out, some need more support than others. That's kind of an analogy for life in public ed. And some want to do it themselves, right? And then you've got to work through all kinds of weather. So it's a great analogy for really just persevering and always being focused on customer support. Even in snowy, icy weather. We didn't have a lot of snowy days in Snohomish, but I remember a couple of days on that job hauling big rows of carts through icy parking lots. Pretty challenging.
Yeah. So are there some kind of the informal community activities that have really helped shape how you approach the world? Volunteering or other kinds of work?
Yeah, so you know, athletics in many ways. So that isn't the volunteer job when you're a kid, but then eventually being able to volunteer coach youth and volunteer coach adult soccer even, which is pretty interesting. Lots of food bank work, a little bit as a youth and quite a bit as an adult in my particular community now, which is Thurston County. And so, yeah, a small town, you pitch in the way you can and where you can, and we had a lot of opportunities to do that as kids, so that's pretty cool.
Are there some places that you've traveled that have given you insights?
Yeah, you know, I went to graduate school in North Carolina. So UNC Chapel Hill, and that is not representative of the rest of North Carolina. So I did get a chance to travel all over the state, to the east, to the northwest and southwest, and then South Carolina and other parts as well as the northeast. So I think the real diversity of our nation is on display when you really get in your car and you visit places and don't just fly into them. And so, yeah, being in the South for a couple of years I think was really powerful, just to see how different it is. How equally committed people are, though, to their own health and success in public ed. And so definitely travels there. I've only done a little international travel, Europe. My wife and I took students on a 10-day, right as our last year of teaching took place, we took 10 students between the two schools we taught in, and it was Italy, Paris, and Rome. So that was a fantastic experience for those young people, and I think really grounding them in the history they were learning with us as teachers, and then being able to bring them was a pretty great experience for them.
It's always fun to watch somebody else's eyes open as they see the world around them. That's one of the fun things about teaching. That's not a question, that's a statement. What led you to leave teaching, which has a lot of fulfillment to it, and run for elected office?
Yeah, well, the elected office came much, much later. I loved classroom teaching. I really, really did. And my wife and I both knew we were going to give back to that system for most of our careers. And so we weren't sure if we'd want to be classroom teachers forever. We did it together for 3 years. I was in Longview and she was in Battle Ground, Washington. And then we said, well, let's go to graduate school and keep advancing our advocacy in public ed in different ways. She went the school counselor route and did that for more than 20 years. And I went and got a master's degree in public administration from Chapel Hill. And I spent 14 years thereafter working in our state's community and technical college system. And so staying in education, but on the higher ed side at the 2-year level. And what I wanted more than anything was to just keep opening doors for students. And teaching is amazing and fulfilling, but it's not big policy work. It doesn't necessarily move big systemic policy. And I definitely decided that that was something I think that was better aligned for where I wanted to go personally. Although I did love teaching, and by my third year, I really felt like I could really be dynamic and deliver education the way students expected it. So we didn't follow chapters and do all that. By my second and third year, I was really designing a lot around their interests. So as I walked them through U.S. history, we focused on culture. Interestingly, what were teenagers at that time listening to? What was popular at the time? What kind of games were popular? How did the typical teenager live their life? So I wanted my students to see the world through where they were as teenagers now, but in different time periods. And we did that really from the Civil War all the way to contemporary U.S. history. So love teaching, also wanted a big policy transformation, because even then I was seeing this one-size-fits-all system. Every kid must go to a university was not working for a lot of young people.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, you did volunteer. You ran for elected office before this one, and you served in the state legislature. What drew you in to actually actively run? Lots of people are interested in public policy, but not everybody steps up.
Yeah, in my community here, the 22nd district, there was a vacancy, and it was during the last crisis, interestingly, back in 2010, and we had just sort of hit the depths of the housing crisis. And there was, I think, an opportunity to bring an education lens to this district, both as a K-12 teacher. I had been a school board member at that time, and then that higher education experience. And so I felt like the legislature would be well served by having a voice with that much education experience. And so I jumped into that, had a very competitive primary in an open seat, and was fortunate to get through that and win. Okay.
Well, that brings us up to our last question, which is your opportunity to have the wrap up. Why should people vote for Chris Reykdal for Superintendent of Public Instruction?
Experience mostly. I have really seen the system in a lot of ways and experienced it myself as a kid on public assistance. We had a lot of poverty in my family, being parents with only an 8th grade education. So my dad worked. He worked with his hands. He was a tactile guy, and I saw that things weren't always working well for him. Even though he had skills, the world wasn't really respecting that without credentials. So I am here to try to open doors for students. We've improved the grad rate every year since I've been here. We've closed opportunity gaps for students of color. There's a lot of work left to be done, for sure, but experience in public ed as an executive, as an educator, a school board member, a finance background, a higher ed background, I do believe I bring all the skill sets that this role really demands right now and in the future. So thanks for the opportunity.
Well, thank you for joining us, and good luck with your campaign.
Thank you, Sue Lani.
90 million Christians are eligible to vote.
40 million didn't.
That's 45% of eligible Christians not voting.
We can change that.
We believe We Vote was designed to arm people of faith with information on candidates
and how they line up with biblical and constitutional principles.
It's simply WeBelieveWeVote.com.
We're on a mission to rev up the 2020 election.
Tell your friends, your neighbors, and especially your pastors to rev up.
Be an educated voter.
Arm yourself with truth based on the Word of God.
2020. Rev up.
Register, educate, vote.
Rev up.
Rev up.
Rev up 2020.